Hey, just comment on Matt Dillahunty's answering anti-natalism video. It's with a heavy heart that I do because he's awesome. I love the guy. I feel like I owe him a lot. He helped me deconvert to atheism, and so his work in theological debates and whatnot has been great. Has been very valuable, and I appreciate that. It's just sad that something like this can be like so close yet so far away from his mind. It's really baffling, honestly. But I did see it coming throughout the years. I slowly started to see him being a life worshiper. Like, he was just always talking about, things are getting good in the world and technology is getting better and all these things. But he didn't understand ever, still doesn't, that there's a price that was paid for humans to get to where we are. And he's kind of just, it's just sad that it's just rude. Honestly, it's kind of rude and condescending to be so dismissive about, an idea that deserves attention more than any other idea in the world. It's one of those things, like, he should grant the time and give the proper attention towards, how is imposing birth any different? You've enslaved someone into a bag of meat, and they're forced to deal with the neurons that they were born into in their head. They could have a mental issue. I mean, I don't even want to go into all the problems, but he focuses so hard on the asymmetry argument, and it's like, why? There's 150 other arguments that are much more convincing. Like, biblical contradiction arguments to me aren't even a 1/100th of the value of, like, the problem of evil, right? He uses the problem of evil ironically to combat against theism and theists. But why can't the problem of evil, why can't you figure out that the problem of evil is solved through not creating evil in the first place? That's all it's saying. And he goes into these crazy notions, and I'm going to play the video and go into it, but it is painful to watch. But I do find it interesting. He kind of talks about how theists, can be really smart and yet have, still have silly ideas. And I think this is one of them, because Matt's a smart guy. Like, you can't, you can't deny that he's a smart guy. But you also, like, it's just funny that this is one of those things that he all of a sudden veers off. He kind of just takes a little exit into La La Land about the awe and wonder of the universe, and humanism is so good. And I feel like that's why I fucking hate humanism, is it just, all it does is kind of create a bigotry in your head that humans are just superior to every other sentient being in the world. And we're talking about the bigger picture here. A lot of anti-natalists recognize that the bigger picture here is not just human life, but it's a brutal warfare of carnage out there in nature. You want to cling on to some sort of purpose in life. Just the word purpose and meaning has just like a tangible, feeling. Meaning has meaning, right? So it's just, the irony is he's been doing this 20 years and he still can't figure out that, when someone's suffering, like, forget the whole subjective thing. When that person is suffering, and to them it's suffering, right? Like, to that person, losing an arm is suffering. It's not a pleasurable experience. There's nothing going to be gained out of it ever. That's a value equation that's clear. There's no question about it. There's no iffy this and iffy that, and what about this subjective this or perceptions of this? Doesn't work that way. But anyway, let's watch some of the video, and so here we go. All right.
There's no bad from the experience, the active experience of pain.
I don't know. I mean, there's so many other arguments to it. It's like, you don't come to that conclusion that quickly. Nobody ever has. They come to the conclusion of saying, like, oh, like, babies are born with two heads, and they're going to have 90 operations by the time they're 1, and this is not a good thing. They're never going to enjoy that. Perception isn't subjective on that. They're never going to be pleasurable experiences. Like, you know, being fed through tubes in your stomach, that's not a good meal. Like, there's a million analogies that could be, you know, talked about, but I won't go there because, you know, I could talk all day about that stuff.
I have no plans to have kids. But I don't want anybody thinking that I'm doing so because I've been convinced by the anti-natalist argument.
Why? Why not? Why are you so afraid of the child-free movement? It's as if you're ashamed of it. You're sneaking in the assumption that anti-natalism is some cult or a tribalistic thing, and, you know, we're all going to attack you if you aren't part of us. It's just sad that by the time he dies, he's not going to realize, like, hopefully he does, but if he dies and he doesn't get this argument, it's just one of those things that's just like, oh man, crap, it's just a bummer. Like, you didn't get the most somehow imposing life on someone that didn't ask to be life, didn't consent in the first place, like, is baffling to you. I don't know. A struggle it can be beneficial in the long run. And you sound like the Jesus freaks that say, you know, you did this for good. I went through my hell for good. I mean, you literally sound like a 700 Club package where a person's like, I did drugs and I was rock bottom, but Jesus saved me. And so without, you know, all of my drugs and downtime, you know, I now, like, because of that, it's now good. But it's the value of the bad was still bad, period. It's just the tattoo written all over the stars that says bad. This was a bad event.
At all, you know, you might LSD, for example. Ooh, it's good, but that releases endorphins and it amplifies stuff.
Yeah, now he's just talking about perception of pain, as if there is no objective perception of pain. You know, as if you're refuting yourself in a sense where you're saying, like, objective pain is only subjective to the person, right? The being, the entity that's trying to determine that value. But if that person says this value is negative, then it's negative. The biggest chunk of anti-natalism is you're preventing the pain to ever exist in the first place by not rolling the dice on someone else's welfare. Some people's thresholds for pain are way smaller than others. Some people can handle the mountain, that Mount Everest climb, and other people get halfway up and they're like, fuck this, I'm out of here, this is torture. But there's no benefit though. The guy that failed halfway up Everest is not benefited from anything. All he has is failure written all over his brain and a sore back. Nobody's happy when they're 70 and they've had a chronic illness for 45 years and says, damn it, this was a good battle, I did a good battle. I mean, if they do, they're delusional. There's nothing positive is coming out of that. You're only going to be a bitter, pissed off, you know, just pissed off old person that's cranky because they've dealt with a chronic illness forever. You sound just like the Christian. You really have created life itself to be a religion for yourself. The humanism life thing is your religion. It really is, and it's like sad to see. And yeah, it's more sad to see that than it is to be me and see life for what it is and have kind of the depressive realist viewpoint.
We're not all the same. What our limits are.
But that's the problem. Because we're not all the same is why you don't impose the life on anybody in the first place. If you have two lives, right, and they're just balls, they're like soccer balls, and you're gonna throw them into one pit or the other. One pit has, you know, just all the joys of life, sex, pizza, and sleeping, right? And the next one has fire pits, dungeons, and lions, and snakes, whatever, you know. But you're gonna throw that ball of life blind. You're gonna be blind. You're gonna juggle the balls. You're gonna whatever. Let's go. Don't you see how that's like unethical? I mean, we're talking about ethical philosophy here, and so how does that not grasp to you that the joyous life that someone had that was kind of nice, it doesn't justify all the suffering that happens out in the world. And I would give 100 orgasms to prevent a stomach illness. You know how brutal that is to throw up from a stomach virus? I would easily give up 100 orgasms for that. But that's not the gamble. You don't have that option in life. The point of antinatalism is, why are you creating that? The parent, not you, the parent has created that dilemma. That person now has like a fucking like a horrible predicament to deal with. They're now in life. They're 14, they're 41, they're 61, whatever. And they're thinking, fuck, this isn't worth living. Life's not worth living. This sucks. That's my evaluation. So you have to respect that. And you get it. I think you get the right to die stuff. But it's the fact that the parent has imposed that horrific feeling on that child. And that's the problem. That's the ethical problem that we argue. Is it ethical to create suffering? That is what you're doing. Let's say there's some joys in that person's life. But come on, the most of the day everyone's fucking agitated, and you can easily say any joy that you have is relieving a suffering. You know, I'm hungry, I had to eat. You know, like I had an orgasm, but I was 9 hours of sexual frustration. It wasn't really fun. Whatever it is, there's always the need. There's always a need. That's all we are, is need machines. We're just creating need, and there's always a need, and fulfilling that need for what purpose? For no purpose whatsoever. And suffering, to add suffering into the mix of that, is just wasted. Why? Because we die. And why? Because there is no God. And because we don't go to paradise. We don't go to fucking heaven. So all of this suffering is for what? It's for literally nothing. And it's sad, and it's dark, and it's depressing. I agree. But these are the sad facts of life, kind of like that there is no God.
Death with dignity.
You wouldn't need to have the right to die if you weren't born in the first place. I keep going back to that. I mean, how does that not get you to be on board with antinatalism and just be like, at least acknowledge, say, okay, wow. What are you talking about the right to die for? We're talking about the right to not live, to not be born. Once we're born and into this world, we gotta face it. We gotta deal with it. Our parents impose this on us. We gotta do the best we can to juggle, fucking dodge these bullets in our life. But please tell me how you deduced from antinatalism down to suicide or the right to die. You just come up to that assumption that we're all depressed people who want to kill ourselves.
But at a minimum, we have to respect people's autonomy and individual freedom, because
if we respected the person's autonomy, we would never have kids in the first place. You don't get that. Why should we respect the autonomy of a life that's born, but not respect the potential life that can be born? Answer that. If you didn't procreate, none of that would happen in the first place. But now we're here. We do have to deal with issues. But the less suffering we create, the better. There's a mathematical equation that's pretty simple.
And so, if you're an anti-natalist, cool, don't reproduce. But if you're going to argue that there's some moral issue that should force the rest of us to not reproduce.
Yes. I think it's not forcing. It's just educating, right? You're not forcing others to become atheists. No, you don't care. Natalists are just trying to educate by saying, hey, these are serious fucking issues, man. Like, what if Hitler wasn't born, right? That's all we're saying.
You are oversimplifying things. Not just pain and pleasure, but you're oversimplifying who we are.
Who are we? See, what he's really saying is who we are. Is this life-worshipping Jesus freak, is what he is. It's the pro-life agenda where it's just like, oh, life is just so good for me, so I can't really fathom how life cannot be good for other people. How are you unable to do that?
B.
And like, you're so optimist, you just have an optimism bias. Like, humans are going to be so good at this, and we're going to get there, and we're headed there towards a great, end game. And how do you know? How do you know that will ever happen, for one? But two, you're not understanding that all these good things that could happen in the future, which is what, like having a cell phone or something, and just good porn or whatever. Like, you think, like, all those things doesn't justify the payment, the price that was paid for us to get here, or for the future generations that are going to be even in a better place. It took 108 billion humans for us to get here just to talk on YouTube. Have we really accomplished anything that great at all? Have we really gotten anywhere? I would say, nope, not even close to some kind of utopia. And but what is it going to take, another 250,000 years for us to get there?
The next generation isn't going to actually come up with solutions to many of the things that we find incredibly painful today, such that the general pleasure in someone's life will always trump the pain in it. But we don't have to wait for those future generations. Because as I said, that mechanism is already built in. Truth of the matter.
What's that mechanism? Wearing snake skin boots?
Is that for most people, life is its own reward.
Life is its own reward. You might as well just say, I'm a lifeist, and it's my new religion, and please join up and contribute to my Patreon account. It's called Life. I'm a lifeist, and it's about life is living, and it's great for me, and fuck the rest of the people in the world that suffer. Forget them. They don't matter. It's what you're saying, especially animals. With your snakeskin boots and your, I wouldn't doubt if you'd have an elk's head mounted on your wall.
That the pleasure and the good things that we experience already clearly and obviously trump the bad things that we...
How is that obvious? Nothing is more obvious to me than the pain and the suffering and the negative that happens every day to everybody. Your friends and your family that call you up every day. What are those conversations? They're 97% like, fucking shit, man, Johnny's doing this, and my sister sucks for this, and, like, my wife sucks because she's not doing enough for me. Whatever it is, it's like, I got this going on, my job sucks, I hate it. Like, come on. You really think 97% of your friends that call you up are just like, life's so good, man, life's so good? And if it is, I'm happy for you. You won the little life lottery game. But it doesn't mean that you can't logically come to the conclusion that, hey, my life might be better than a whole heck of a lot of other people. Because a whole hell of a billions of other people are living in poverty.
Experience. We understand going through trials and tribulations and sickness can actually make us stronger. It can actually...
It doesn't. It makes you a bit more bitter. You don't go, that's Jesus talking. It's Jesus talking. You don't even know it. It makes us stronger. What did a broken leg do that made life better for you? It didn't. Once you healed, half healed, you're kind of like, fuck, that sucked. That was a shitty 3 months.
Get us the attention we need. Why? Because we're a community. Because we are learning. Because we know more than our ancestors did. And that this anti-natalist argument, as flawed as it may be as an actual syllogism purportedly based on evidence, is just another window into nihilist teachings.
There we go, the nihilist conclusion that just nothing matters, the 100% incorrect and completely the opposite conclusion of where you should be if you study anti-natalism. Suffering is the most important value assessment anybody can make in the entire world.
Because religions have given people the notion that their life must have value and purpose and meaning.
No, it's not about meaning and value and purpose, it's about you and your life. What you just said 20 seconds ago, that life is worth living, or life is, great, whatever it is. That's your religion talking. Not your religion, but you know what I'm saying. The lifeist agenda of let's keep perpetuating this existence of sentient beings.
Coming from outside of them, and anything other than that might as well just end it all. Got no value. The universe doesn't care.
No, the universe doesn't care at all. And no, you shouldn't end it. You know why? Because people like me can make a stupid YouTube video, and maybe I can talk to some people. Maybe I can change someone's mind. Maybe I can change someone from having a kid to not having a kid. Talk about like insane. You didn't even bring up like environmental issues. If you prevent a kid, you've prevented more than doing any sort of other green activity in the world. If you not have a kid. Anyway, I was headed somewhere else with that, but yeah, I'm just surprised he hasn't even looked up the environmental positives, because I'm sure he's all about that.
This existential dread that people experience.
Existential dread. Let me just put a hammer to your head, and then just kind of while you're crying and bloody on the ground, just be like, man, you have some existential dread you need to work on.
It's rude. In many ways, it's rude. The result of religions lying to people about the nature of their existence. And
but you're creating meaning out of different things, though. You're creating your own little meaning, though, that's equivalent to a theist's meaning. Whether it's given to you from a God source, or you create the little meaning in your head that says, I'm accomplishing something today, I'm going to do my painting that everybody loves, or I'm going to win the big football game. Those are meaningless things that people think are meaningful, and they're not. They're just passing the time. That's all we're doing, passing the time.
The voluntary conversation movement, the anti-natalist movement, or otherwise, is going to continue down that path of gross oversimplification.
No, it's going to go to a path of positive conclusions of saying, wow, we care about the suffering of other people. This is the most positive social movement there is right now. And you're creating it into this spiral into darkness of fucking meaninglessness, hedonism and nihilism. And you got it all wrong. So anyway, I'm rambling pretty long. It's a long video. I tried to keep it short, and ironically, it's twice as long as I was going to go. But I went on some rants, and maybe you guys got some little nuggets of information in there that are important. And but I think it's pretty much done.
in such a way that it impacts people's desire to live and their desire to reproduce.
And why should we have a desire to live? Name that purpose. Like, what's the positive of continuing suffering? If I die today, and then or if I die in 40 years, but nothing happens, which is usually the routine in humans' lives, especially from 40 to 80. From 0 to 40, you can maybe make an argument like you're 20 and healthy. But when you're 40 to 80, your life gets pretty fucking cruise control-ish. So, have you prevented like suffering? I would say yes if you ended it now, but it's not this negative thing. It's so negative. It's just the assumption. Your assumption is negative, not the reality. Reality is positive. I didn't create a being. I didn't create a 5-year-old that's going to get cancer. That's it. That's all it's about. Hey, I didn't create a 5-year-old that got cancer today. That's a fucking beautiful thing.
We're emphasizing pain, undervaluing pleasure, and oversimplifying the dynamic between them.
I just value pleasure like a boss. I didn't create a 5-year-old today that's going to get cancer, or I didn't create a being today that's going to in 5 years get cancer.
Then yeah, it's relevant to the discussions that we have because now it's about humanism and it's about skepticism.
There it is. It's all about humanism. Fuck the animals and fuck everybody else, but it's all about like let's think of humans. Humans are so special, and we need to do so many things, and let's try to accomplish things as humans in the world. Let's travel to Mars and just like populate Mars because that sounds fun. Don't think about the thousands of people that'll die to try to create a living space in Mars. We don't care about that. That's a sacrifice worth doing. See, anyway, he's pretty much done, and I'm done too because we're like 40 minutes or something. So thanks. I hope this helps someone. I know I've got a chip on my shoulder about it, but it's just really sad because someone like Matt could be a really, really, really good proponent and advocate for the anti-natalism movement because he has lots of followers. A lot of people listen to what he has to say. And it would be really nice because he would get so far. He would accomplish so much more. Just the fact that he has so much more followers. A schlub like me is whatever. That's fine. I don't care. But all you have to do is make one video in defense of anti-natalism, and people would have been like, oh yeah, that's interesting. I guess he makes some good points. I'm sure he'll come up with some great points that are way 10 times better than my points. And I'm an idiot. How am I an idiot? And he's like a smart guy, and I get this, and he doesn't. It's really weird. It's like the theist that can be really smart. Like he even debates a William Lane Craig guy or something, and he says, yeah, I concede you can be the most intelligent person in the world but still have silly beliefs. And that's what Matt's doing. He's a really intelligent guy, but he has a really silly notion about what life really is, and how the measurement of suffering is just the hill of suffering measurement is just huge. And he's just dismissing it, You're oversimplifying stuff because, there's yummy steaks and burgers in the world. So, anyway, I'm done, and I hope this helped. And if you stuck with me this long, then geez, kudos to you. So, hope you had a good New Year's, and hope you have a good year. Or should I say, I hope you have a less bad year. Because you exist. And so, because of that, let's just be nihilists. Alright, anyway, have a good day or night. Talk to you later. See ya. Bye.